When you consider how much time, effort, and factors there are to balance when making a film, it's no wonder that mistakes get made. Continuity errors, lines of dialogue that don't quite match up, fans in the back of Braveheart, you know the stuff. Yet sometimes these air quotes mistakes have deliberately been put there, either as an Easter egg and sometimes even because they had to be put there for technical reasons. Not saying that you can justify every goof you see in movies, but at least some of them have a bit of an interesting tale behind them. With this in mind, I'm Jules for Whatculture.com, and these are 10 movie air quotes mistakes that were put there intentionally. Number 10. The scratch marks. Tarzan. In a scene near the beginning of Disney's 37th animated classic, Tarzan gets himself into a brutal scuffle with a rather angry pussy. We've all been there, right, lads? Hey, wee. As the fight progresses, the leopard lashes out at Tarzan with its claws, slashing him across the chest and leaving 3 very noticeable marks in the process. The cuts look deep and definitely don't look like they'll be healing anytime soon, and yet, inexplicably, when Tarzan carries the leopard's dead body out of a pit a few moments later, the slash marks have vanished completely. Well, it turns out that this was the result of Disney's strict rules about what can and can't be shown. And blood is something that they really don't want to feature a lot of. It's also why the leopard itself suffers a cut, which then vanishes. So the next time you see a flash of the old violent red in Disney, expect it to clear up a few moments later. Number 9. German planes, yellow noses. Dunkirk. Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk isn't entirely historically accurate, but for the most part, it's pretty close. One of the things that people did point out, though, was why the German planes had yellow noses when they didn't in real life, or, to the point, not at that time. Well, Nolan had this to say. In reality, the planes were not painted yellow until about a month after Dunkirk, but it's a very useful color scheme to try distinguishing 2 planes in the air. And there are going to be things that we have done that are inaccurate, but they are done with eyes open and respect for real history. Ultimately, this feels like the right choice to do, as it would have been very confusing to tell who was shooting who, but then again, maybe that would have made it even more nail-biting. Number 8. The Visible Trapdoor, The Wizard of Oz. It's amazing how well The Wizard of Oz holds up today, with its vibrant colors, quirky characters, and timeless music lending to it a purely magical feel. Still, movie making has advanced a great deal in the decades since, and looking back, it's easy to spot certain things that feel wrong or look out of place, like this scene where the Wicked Witch makes a dramatic exit from Munchkinland. The character vanishing in a puff of red smoke and a stream of fire is a well-done effect, but it's hampered by 2 noticeable gaffes. The smoke starts billowing way before Margaret Hamilton gets into position, and the trapdoor from which they emanate is clearly visible. Yet it turns out that this was a scene they couldn't fix because of an accident with Hamilton, who suffered serious burns, and this is one of the only shots they could actually use. When Hamilton returned, she refused to do any more fire-based stunts, understandable, which gave the filmmakers only one choice: to use the rehearsal take that we now see in the finished film. Number 7. VRex Fingers, King Kong. Scientific accuracy probably shouldn't be the first thing on your mind when you're going to watch a blockbuster about a giant ape punching the shit out of dinosaurs, but apparently it was for whoever noticed something off in Peter Jackson's 2005 King Kong remake. The T-Rex looking dino in King Kong canon has 3 clawed digits per hand, despite the real-life T-Rex only sporting 2. But Jackson didn't get this wrong by accident. This was an informed creative decision that he chose to make. The 3-fingered T-Rex was actually in the 1933 version of King Kong, which Jackson chose to pay homage to when the time came to make his version of the classic story. Isn't that swell? Now he can flip you the bird, the cheeky lizard. Number 6. Jack's Brand, The Curse of the Black Pearl. After the perpetually drunk Captain Jack Sparrow saves a drowning Elizabeth Swann near the start of the first Pirates movie, he's cornered by James Norrington and a handful of Port Royal soldiers. As Norrington reaches out to shake Jack's hand as a thank you for saving his desired bride, he pulls back the pirate's sleeve to reveal a brand on his arm in the shape of a P. Given to Jack by the East India Trading Company to forever label him as a pirate, the practice of branding sea-based outlaws with this letter was something the real East India Company did, only they didn't brand pirates on the arm. Instead, they left their marks on their foreheads. However, the team behind Pirates couldn't have their main star running around for 2 hours with a giant letter on his head, so they chose to relocate the brand to Jack's arm, where it was less intrusive. Number 5. The Coordinates, The Fate of the Furious. Shortly after The Fate of the Furious starts, the camera cuts to an overhead shot of a wooded area, complete with coordinates in the bottom left-hand corner. But should you weirdly be curious enough to enter these coordinates into an online map service, you'll find that they don't actually correspond to a wooded area near a sports field. Did the filmmakers just mess this up? No, they certainly did not, because the coordinates will actually take you to the Universal Studios theme park in California, aka the same studio who distributes the Fast franchise. It's clear the filmmakers entered these coordinates as a little Easter egg for fans, unless this is actually a massive ploy to get people to attend their theme park, in which case there has to be simpler ways to achieve this goal. Number 4. The Dust Storm, The Martian. At the start of Ridley Scott's The Martian, Matt Damon is left stranded on Mars as a result of a raging dust storm that separates him from the rest of his crew. The storm is seen absolutely battering the crew and damaging valuable equipment, but if you take this same situation and give it a real-life context, the outcome would not be as nearly devastating. Dave Lavery, program executive for solar system exploration at NASA and a consultant on the film, confirmed as much in a chat with IFL Science. Dust storms certainly do occur on Mars. They get winds in excess of 100 miles per hour, but 100 miles per hour wind on Mars, because the atmosphere is so thin, has the same inertia and dynamic pressure down at the surface as about an 11 mile per hour wind on Earth. It's not going to have the same sort of energy to move large objects the way that it's portrayed in the book and the film. But without a devastating inciting incident, there is no movie. And so, fully aware that a real Mars dust storm wouldn't have the same punch in real life, the filmmakers and the author of the original novel chose to include a damaging one anyway, just to move the plot along. Number 3. Morpheus's glasses. The Matrix. At one point during sci-fi game changer The Matrix, Neo and Morpheus have a conversation inside the Construct, an empty white room also known as Adam Wilborn's brain, which is used to upload virtual objects or run training simulations. As the scene begins, the camera slowly zooms towards Morpheus, who's sporting a pair of matte grey glasses, but then, only a few seconds later, his glasses have changed to shiny black reflective surfaces. Well, what just happened? As you probably guessed it by now, this isn't just an overlooked error. The glasses were switched on purpose. For that first zoom shot, matte glasses were required so the camera wouldn't be spotted in the reflection of the glass. But for all subsequent shots of Morpheus, this wasn't an issue, so he was able to sport his shiny specs. Number 2. Escalator Slide. Skyfall. One of Skyfall's best action scenes finds Daniel Craig's Bond chasing down Javier Bardem's Silver, with the pair sprinting through the London Underground and sliding down the centre of an escalator. It's quite a smooth ride down to the bottom where their chase resumes, but for those of us who've considered performing such a feat in real life, know that Bond's brief slide would not have played out this way. In reality, the two men would have whacked their private parts on a number of small signs commonly found in the centre of escalators, signs put in place specifically to prevent people from sliding down them. And while it would have made for a pretty funny chase scene, it wouldn't have made for a very exciting one, which is why the filmmakers opted to ditch the signs, giving Bond and Silver a clean ride down to the bottom. Whee! And number 1, lighting the way, Titanic. There's no denying that Titanic was a painstakingly crafted movie, with the utmost attention to detail given to each and every frame. And though historical accuracy is always going to matter in movies like this, the crew's primary goal is to make an entertaining movie, and anything else comes second to that. So when the time came to shoot one of the movie's final scenes featuring lifeboats returning to the ship's wreckage, director James Cameron was forced to give one of the boats a bulky lantern-style electric torch in order for the scene to be adequately lit. But in reality, the lifeboat would have had no such device, since only oil-based lamps were provided, a fact that Cameron was well aware of. He also knew that an oil-based lamp simply wouldn't have provided enough light, and given the fact that this is a dark scene, a lot of light was needed. And so the director stitched things up, resulting in the chilling, devastatingly effective scene that we have today. Although in retrospect, maybe we prefer not to see all of those frozen people. Just saying.